Hadrian's Wall was constructed from 122 to 126 AD to protect Roman Britain against hostile tribes in Scotland. The stone wall stood 6 feet high and ran 74 miles across. A few sections of the wall are preserved in present-day Great Britain, and it's considered Emperor Hadrian's greatest achievement. Almost entirely forgotten are the efforts of Trajan, an earlier Roman emperor, to construct a similar wall in Britain. Trajan faced many of the same problems in Britain that Hadrian would face years later. The Pict tribes in Scotland would raid Roman garrisons, killing soldiers and stealing food. Trajan reasoned that a wall would fortify the Roman soldiers' position and protect them against attack. Construction of Trajan's Wall began in 104 AD, and it was finished 2 years later. It ran 85 miles long and stood nearly 3 inches high. This section of the wall is all that exists today of Trajan's legacy.
Critics who wish to dismiss Trajan's tremendous achievement tend to say things like, well, the wall was only 3 inches high. They also point out that the rocks that made up the wall weren't so much cemented together as loosely lined up next to one another. But to those critics, I would point out that not only was the wall 10 miles longer than Hadrian's Wall, but it took 2 years less time to build.
The first test came in 106 AD, when a group of barbarian Picts came up to the wall on their way to raid the Romans. They walked past it and killed several Roman soldiers.
It wasn't so much that the Picts were unimpressed by the wall as much as they didn't notice it. They came across it in a small clearing which didn't communicate the tremendous length of the wall. To the Picts, it must have looked like just a line of rocks.
Clearly, Trajan would have to do something more to keep the invaders out. He ordered that the wall be reconstructed. This time he would make the wall longer, stretching from one end of Britain to the other.
Few walls in history were built on this scale. I mean, try to imagine the Great Wall of China if it were 3 inches high, and you would get a sense of how impressive Trajan's achievement was.
Once again, Trajan's Wall was put to the test. Another tribe came up to the wall on its way to fight the Romans. This time it was on a field where they could see the wall extend at least a mile in each direction. There are conflicting reports as to what happened next. Some say the tribe stared at the wall for 10 seconds. Others say 15. Then they walked past it and killed several Roman soldiers.
While the wall didn't stop the tribe, it's important to note that it slowed them down for as long as 15 seconds, allowing the Romans that much more time to mobilize.
Trajan knew something grander was needed, but the wall already stretched from one end of Britain to the next. There was no more room left to build. That's when Trajan realized what the wall had been missing all along. Trajan ordered his men to continue underwater construction of the wall a mile out to sea in both directions, costing the lives of several thousand Roman soldiers.
Critics point to this to make the claim that Trajan was a fool or even insane, but I think his actions were perfectly reasonable. What?
Trajan died in 117 AD, before he was able to continue construction of the wall further into sea.
Sadly, little is left of Trajan's Wall. Just as much of Hadrian's Wall was torn down to make use of the stone for building new structures, much of Trajan's Wall was torn down when travelers would accidentally scatter the rocks or when kids would have rock fights.
Although the wall has been damaged, through computer simulation we are able to reconstruct what the wall must have looked like to the Romans at the time. Just another page from real true history.
Da